What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is something that Evander Holyfield actually said. He actually said this past winter, but for some reason, when he said this, it didn't get a lot of traction. It really wasn't put out there that he said this. It was kind of under the radar. And for some reason, it's trending again. I saw some YouTube videos talking about this. I did a little bit of research and found out that he actually said this, like I said, back in January. But it's being talked about a little bit more now. So Evander Holyfield said that he believes that he is the GOAT of boxing, or at least the GOAT of heavyweight boxing. So Evander Holyfield said this at an event back in January, as I said. It was the annual Ring Magazine Award ceremony, which took place in London. And the event was a star-studded affair as Alexander Usyk took home multiple awards. Now, recently, Alexander Usyk became, I believe, the second fighter in the modern era to be an undisputed champion in at least two weight class divisions. The first one being Evander Holyfield, which prompted them to talk to Evander Holyfield about that accomplishment, and then it expanded to, I believe, his place in heavyweight history. And that's when he said that he believes that he is the GOAT over the consensus GOAT, Muhammad Ali. He said, quote, "I'm the only four-time heavyweight champion of the world, but they're still talking about Ali when I broke his record. I've been the only four-time heavyweight champion in the world for 24 years. You can't talk about it till you break somebody's record, and they're not even saying nothing about me. How do you cut somebody out of history? They keep saying Ali is the best fighter. No, I am. He was 3 times. I'm 4. So, look, this is how I look at it. Number one, this is something that we're seeing more and more often, as I said before. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You're seeing these guys who, for years, especially when the other fighters were still alive, they either agreed or they were real quiet as to they either agreed that the fighter was the consensus GOAT or they kept their mouths shut. Now we've been without Ali for 9 years now, right? Unfortunately. And, now you see guys trying to push him out the way and make cases for other fighters, or you see Evander Holyfield, who is being incredibly self-serving in this situation, right? By saying he's the GOAT. Well, Evander Holyfield went 44, 10, and 2 in his career. 44 victories, 10 defeats, 2 draws, 29 knockouts. Versus Ali with 56 wins, 5 defeats, 37 knockouts. So Ali fought more fights, and Ali had a much better win percentage. Okay. So that's a one-up that Ali has. Secondly, you could make an argument, okay, well, if he has a worse record than Ali, then maybe he fought more Hall of Famers than Ali. And I looked at it, and I saw that Evander Holyfield, as far as surefire Hall of Famers that he fought Mike Tyson, he fought Lennox Lewis, he fought Riddick Bowe, who underachieved, an elderly George Foreman, and a super elderly Larry Holmes, right? Says 5. I guess Dwight Muhammad Kweli is a Hall of Famer. And I would say James Toney is a Hall of Famer, but James Toney was at his best at a lower weight class, right? I think middleweight, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 Hall of Famers, bona fide Hall of Famers that he fought. And one of them's not even a heavyweight, and that guy knocked you the fuck out. Okay? Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman. Muhammad Ali fought Sonny Liston. He fought Ken Norton. He fought Bob Foster. He fought Archie Moore. He fought Floyd Patterson. He fought Joe Frazier. And he fought George Savala, right? Those are the bona fide Hall of Famers that he fought. And then I guess, you would have to include at least fringe guys like Ernie Shavers would be up there, right? Those are fringe guys he fought. He fought multiple great fighters, and he fought them multiple times. As a matter of fact, I think Ali fought the third most Hall of Fame fighters for a heavyweight, second to Sam Langford and Joe Louis. So he beats you in that regards. And then another area where he beats Evander Holyfield is, you talk about you're a 4-time champion. Let's look at this. So you won the championship, I think it was October of 90. You beat an out of shape Buster Douglas, who didn't really want to be there. And then you held the title until you lost to Riddick Bowe. Then I think you regained the title and your rematch with Bowe, but then you immediately lost that title to Michael Moore. So you lost the title for a second time. You regained the title, I believe, for a third time when you beat Mike Tyson. And then I think you lost it to Lennox Lewis, right? I think the second time they fought, even though most people feel like the first time you lost that fight. And then I think you gained it for a fourth time when you beat John Ruiz in 2000. But this is the thing. That third title, most people don't consider that a linear title. That was a piece of the championship, but most people don't really consider that title the linear title. At that point in time, most people recognize Lennox Lewis as the heavyweight champion. So, nobody really recognized that fourth title. You know what I'm saying? It's an alphabet, at least from what I recall. If it wasn't an alphabet title, it wasn't like the real linear title. Whereas Muhammad Ali, he was beating murderers in the ring. He beat Sonny Liston in a fight that nobody had him really pegged to win. And then he held on to the belt until it was stripped from him. He didn't lose. It was stripped from him, right? Because he refused induction to the army and he was just being an uppity Negro. That's what it really was, his crime. He was exiled for boxing for 3 years, fighting for his political and, really his life in general. He was going to go to jail. He's exonerated by the Supreme Court, comes out of a forced retirement, fights against some great fighters, clearly has lost some of his speed and athleticism, but ultimately he fights a George Foreman who, at the time, seemed to be the greatest fighter in the history of boxing, at least the most dominant. At the time, he was 43-0 with 37 knockouts or something like that. Ali beats him, regains the title. Ali holds the title for, I believe it was 4 years until he lost to what's his name, Leon Spinks, right? Comes back in the ring and uses his ring guile, uses his experience, you know what I'm saying? Uses his savvy, despite the fact that, for all intents and purposes, when you look at the footage, when you listen to his voice, he was clearly already showing signs of having Parkinson's disease. Think about that. This man was in the fucking ring fighting against a world-class fighter while he was having his own private battle with Parkinson's disease, and he somehow won that goddamn fight for the third time. And then he comes back and fights Larry Holmes, one of the great heavyweight fighters of all time. Yeah, he was terrible, but he fought him. And then he fought a future heavyweight champion in Trevor Berbick for his final fight. I'm sorry, but there's no way in hell that I'm going to put this dude, Evander Holyfield, and I got all respect in the world for him, but there's no way I'm going to put him ahead of Muhammad Ali. Not to mention the fact that we're not going to pick and choose. We're not going to pick and choose when we want to penalize people for steroid accusations, okay? Evander Holyfield has been linked to steroids, okay? I get it that he beat up on Mike Tyson with traps like goddamn Mark McGuire at the time. And the real reason why he was starting to have heart issues is because he was using steroids, and people want to cover it up. His home was having PEDs mailed to his steroids being PEDs being mailed to his address, but the media covered up. Why? Because they like Evander Holyfield, Mr. I Believe in God. So if you're tied to steroids, you by default can't be a GOAT. I mean, we should already have established that with LeBron James, right? So no, I'm sorry. Evander Holyfield is a great fighter, but to me, he's a steroid cheat. I've done videos talking about it. And no, you're not a heavyweight GOAT. You're great, but to me, you know what I'm saying? You cheated. Ali will forever get the respect because he has the battle scars. Those guys, Ali, Joe Louis, Sam Langford, battle scars. Sam Langford, I think, wound up being blind from the great fighters that he fought, right? I think Langford fought 15, if I'm not mistaken, Hall of Famers in his career. But because of racism, he was never a heavyweight champion. So now, and by the way, I know to a certain degree, a lot of this stuff is generational. Because when I was growing up, the consensus greatest fighters of all time were Sugar Ray Robinson and Henry Armstrong. And those guys are still my greatest fighters. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is the people that grew up watching those fighters are now gone. You know what I'm saying? That were in sports media. Unfortunately, the people that watched Muhammad Ali fight are starting to leave the scene. And they're being replaced by people that only watch boxing in the 80s and 90s, and they have a vested interest in erasing the history of the past and replacing their favorite fighters with new fighters. Fuck that. You're not going to do that bullshit. You're not going to all of a sudden create these new narratives, these bullshit narratives to give these guys who you like, these guys who you favor, because you're too lazy to do any fucking research, make them the fucking GOATs. Fuck no. Ali, there's no way in hell Evander Holyfield should be ranked ahead of Ali. No fucking way in hell.